And that was the first time I ever realized, or Krista ever admitted to having any kind of connection to my adversaries in my lawsuits. So that was a little odd. And then I did go out with them, and then they wanted to order lavender martinis. There was something very secretive about the way they were acting, and I later found something that is attributed and kind of can be connected to the Middletons that specifically touches on lavender martinis, which is really weird, and it's very a random tangent, but I've documented it in my notes, and I can bring that up at a later time and show how it is very random, but it's connected to a couple other things, which gives me a pretty good idea of, you know, that it's not some stray idea. So, you know, I met her, and that was the only time that we met. After that, I was invited to what I call the Last Supper with Krista Schneider and her friends. And a lot of people were invited that I had never met before. It was kind of like they were being introduced to me to only celebrate their victories and say goodbye and get rid of me. Because after I had reported these individuals to the FBI, and after they already knew how I was being written up, they knew that I was doomed, really. And I think that at that point, Krista felt she could already see the trajectory, and she already knew it was going to happen to me, so it was sort of her time to say adios. I remember that I drank a little bit too much. I remember that she started smoking while we were at that restaurant, and her own boyfriend said, he said, "Why are you smoking?" And he said, "You never smoke." And I guess she never smoked around him, but she only smoked around me when she was trying to encourage me to start smoking. So she made some excuse about that. And then I was told to go to have Dylan drive me home. And when I was walking down the stairs from this restaurant, I saw Krista and Ryan Barnes at the bottom of the stairs. They thought that I was too drunk to notice. I was acting really kind of giddy and cheerful and happy and sort of like the stupid drunk. Like have no perception anymore. And I was walking down the stairs, and they thought that I was just out of it. And I saw him say something to her, mocking me, and she looked at me, and both of them looked at me like they thought I was the most ridiculous thing in the world, and just started laughing. They were laughing at me, not with me. I'd known Krista by that time for a couple years. I knew what was going on, and I remember feeling very shocked. Here I was walking downstairs, and I remember what I was wearing even. I was wearing a leopard print dress. It wasn't tacky, it was just like a kind of straight line, solid kind of rayon or smooth material, came to the knee, and sleeveless, very simple, and not clingy or anything. I remember what I was wearing. I remember everything like it is a running video clip. And they were mocking me, and at that point I was like, oh my gosh, that's how she really feels about me, and has probably felt about me all along. I'd already had some warning signals while I was friends with her, and about her intentions. But that was another one. And even though that happened, I was still so reluctant to jump to conclusions about anything. I was very stupid about it. I should have figured things out. But I didn't want to believe that people were mean and malicious or hiding things from me. So, all of a sudden, I was then told that Dylan should take me home, and I couldn't drive really because I was intoxicated. But I tried anyway, and actually that was the one time that I did drive when I was completely intoxicated, and I thought, well, I'm sure I could make it. It's not, he said, it's not very far, because I said, well, how far is it? Because I really am over the limit. And basically, first I was in the car with Dylan, and a police officer, Portland PD, came right up to him and he said, how are you doing? He said, you doing okay? And he was checking on him, and then he looked at me in the car, and he hated me. This Portland officer hated me. And Dylan said, yeah, I'm doing fine. And then they exchanged a few words, and then all of a sudden Dylan said, why don't you take your car and follow me to my house? And he knew that I was intoxicated, but I think in hindsight that he wanted me to follow him so that it looked like I was okay enough to drive, so I must not have been that drunk, and that possibly they already had an idea of what they were going to, or that he had an idea of what he was going to do when I got to his house. And I was just going to, he said, he said, you want to come over and have a nightcap, is what he said. And I felt like being social still. I still felt like hanging out with people, and they were, nobody wanted to go dancing. I kept asking everyone at the bar there. I said, does anyone want to go dancing? So it wasn't like I was just wanting to go out with a man. I was trying to convince people to go dancing. Nobody wanted to go dancing. They cut the night short after I was drunk, and then they wanted me to go with Dylan to have this nightcap. And I just thought, well, we can talk. And I'm obviously chatty sometimes, and I like company, so I did. I followed him to his house. And the one time that I first met him, he was fine. He picked me up one time, got my car out of the parking garage, met some people at the pool party. They seemed okay. So I was there at his house, and he made a nightcap, and I don't completely remember what it was. I think it had something to do with mint. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I kissed him, but then he wasn't drunk at all. And I was very drunk by the time I had this nightcap. I mean, I was probably a little bit over the limit, shouldn't have driven, but I wasn't drunk when I was driving. And when I got to his house and then had this nightcap, or two of them, 2 shots or whatever, I was very drunk. And I didn't realize it was going to be that strong. And he basically started trying to have sex with me. And I backed away from him. He was starting to do what he was going to do. And he was right there. And all of a sudden, even though I was totally blasted, my shock defenses kicked in because I recognized this is the same thing happening again. Even though I was completely incapacitated, something inside of me saw, something inside of me recognized the tragedy and this pattern of things that were being done to me. And when I suddenly recognized it, I jumped up and I got away and I said, I'm leaving. And he said, you can't drive. He said, you're too drunk to drive. He said, you're totally drunk. You're too drunk to drive. And I was drunk. And I said to him, back to him in my drunken state, I said, I'm too drunk to drive, but I'm not too drunk for you to have sex with me. And I got to my car, and I peeled out of his driveway, spitting gravel behind me. And I sobbed. I broke down, burst into tears. I was sobbing in my car, and that was the night I said, I am commuting. I am moving to Washington State. I'm not staying in Oregon anymore. This happened again. I think now that he's definitely connected to the Department of Justice in some way, and to some of these other men. And I couldn't believe that Julia Thornton and these people were refusing to take my complaints and just setting me up. And then this was happening again to me. So I told Julia Thornton that I was, she called me actually.